It is February 17th, 2019. This is Fancy Ramen Podcast. I'm Neil.
I'm Cookie.
And I'm Scott.
And this is a podcast about video games. Of many topics we'll be talking about today, we'll be talking about the Nintendo Direct, anime, because I forgot to watch it. Scott will ruin it all for us. And
hey, Man Lizzie are on episode 3.
And are you enjoying it? Just quick question.
Hence why we're on episode 3.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll talk about it then.
I had
Neil.
to actively stop her from wanting to watch more episodes.
Hold up. I just want to point out that you saying that you're on episode 3 could be an indication of another thing too, though. And that I don't know if this is actually some sort of practice or policy that a lot of people follow, but I think it's common enough
The
where people will give...
3-episode rule.
Yes, exactly.
I give it a 2-episode rule.
Yeah, I honestly pitched this as a 1 episode and you will know if you're in or not type of show.
No, yeah, that's definitely true. It's been on our list, but just haven't had time to watch. And then since you said watch it before this next Fancy Ramen podcast, and I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting the flow on the itinerary. Let's get back to it.
You are fine, because let's actually talk a little bit about anime and such. I didn't get around to watching, is it The Promised Land or A Promised Land?
The Promised Neverland.
Promised Neverland, excuse me. So I didn't get around to watching it, and I'll be quick about this, because what shows I did watch this week, or show, I guess we could say, was I finished up Saiki Kusuo, or whatever, however you want to call it.
K.
Yeah, the disastrous life of Saiki K. And I was just going to very quickly say that that this show, with the conclusion of their additional episodes in season 2, actually does wrap up the series from start to finish. I won't talk about the ending in case you guys do end up watching it at some point in time, but it is a satisfying beginning and end, which a lot of these slice of life stories sometimes do not always give you. And I just have to give it like multiple thumbs up. That show is fantastic. It's got like the typical humor that you can appreciate going in and out of an episode, like not having to have continuous. You don't have to watch every single episode to appreciate the humor. It hits the feels, but at the same time also trolls you on a pretty consistent level. So that's a big recommendation on my list if you have not already listened or watched it, listener/viewer.
Well, damn, that's actually a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I'm on episode 10 of season 2. So I'm about halfway through.
I'm just surprised that for the emotional but also funny genre, it also happens to be the same as the kid with psychic powers genre, because we have Hinamatsuri, a funny but sometimes emotional show. We have Mob Psycho, a funny but also sometimes emotionally stirring show, and then we have Saiki K, a funny and sometimes emotional show. Like, all 3 of them have a very similar premise where the main character has psychic powers, and that's about it. Like, I don't think there's much overlap between the 3 otherwise, besides them all, I guess, being sort of a slice of life as well.
In some way or form, all 3 of the psychic characters also want to lead normal lives, and that's where it starts to really become dramatically different, though, because one person's life is disturbed by, like, we'll say like an evil organization. Another's is just disturbed by the fact that her quote unquote dad is a Yakuza boss. And the third one is, well, he leads the most normal life out of all of them, being Saiki. And it's just that at times he lets his own desires push him away from normalcy. And the fact that, like, being psychic, in his case, he's obviously the strongest of the 3 characters, and he's so strong that it makes his life impossible to live normal. Or does it?
Spoilers?
That's the question mark, right? Or does it?
Well, now that we're in spoiler territory, are you ready to regret not watching at least the first episode of Promised Neverland with Cookie and I?
Yeah, go ahead. I figure if you spoil the first episode, I'd still be able to jump in on it at some point. Or
Monsters!
That's right. These kids living a happy life on a happy homestead in the middle of a forest are actually just livestock on a farm. Once these kids' brains reach a certain size, they're exported to be eaten by demons.
Oof, maybe I'm glad I didn't watch it.
No, it's so good.
It's super good.
And by demons, do you mean Michael Jackson? Because it's Neverland.
Unfortunately, not. Because do they have noses?
No, they have eyes in weird spots, and they're all like physiologically unique.
No, this is a great emotional ride. Even though you know something's up just based on the premise of the trailers of this show, it still has just enough twists to make it feel like when the first time you watch the first season of Death Note. It's got a very Light versus L-esque thought process to it, because these kids are smart, but you know the adults also have things up their sleeve, and oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's a massive power imbalance sort of in the interaction between the kids and the caretaker of the homestead or the farm, whatever you want to call it.
Orphanage.
Yeah, the orphanage, I guess. And the interaction between those characters and their captor, later captors, is this really interesting struggle between them. None of them are trying to indicate that they're aware of what's going on. They're all trying to play it cool because they're still completely innocent, unaware bystanders, which are all the other kids who are naive to what's going on. And no one wants to play their hand too far and get caught or make a rash move. And so it's just like play and counterplay between each episode. And in that like classic Death Note fashion, it's also like every single episode ends with like a cliffhanger where someone might be cornered and it could all be over. But then by the next episode, like there's at least a relatively good reason as to why everything didn't fall apart at that exact moment. It doesn't feel like too Deus Ex Machina yet or like bullshit when the last cliffhanger is resolved without like horrible consequences. It's just this thing where everybody's making hard moves on one another and everybody keeps going check, and there's no checkmate yet. And you get into this like really like hyper tense state of just anxiety about what's going to happen, who's going to win, who can be trusted, what do they do? Like, it's one of those shows where I just have questions racing through my mind the whole time, and I'm loving it. It's a super engaging experience.
Would you guys mind taking a step back and describing what the starting... like what the scenario is that you start with? Because I'm kind of lost as to like what exactly is going on fundamentally.
Yeah. So you are following 3 children who live in an orphanage full of kids ages, it's like toddlers to 12 years old or something around that age. And basically they just live this life in this orphanage, being taken care of by who they call mother or mom. And they take tests on a daily basis and they go outside and play. The episode 1, getting into spoileriness, basically is one of the children is being adopted or being taken into the outside world. She is, and everyone's very happy for her and sad at the same time because they're going to be missing a family member at this point. But this kid, the girl who is first adopted that we get to see, she has this bunny rabbit that she loves. She leaves it behind. 2 of the main characters go to return the bunny rabbit, thus breaking one of the rules of going towards the outside gate.
Wait, like a stuffed rabbit?
Yeah, just a stuffed rabbit. Just
little like bunny.
But yeah, so they go. So they they have these rules of like not crossing any of the fences or don't go over the gates because the world's dangerous. They go to the front gate and break a rule and discover that this little girl who left her money behind is now dead. And so they make a pact to escape with everyone, even though the main character, Emma, that you're following mainly, basically, she is very naive and she wants to escape with everyone. Oh God, what's the white-haired kid's name?
Norman.
Norman loves
and
Emma.
Ray is the black-haired kid.
Ray the edgelord. Norman is the smartest of the bunch. He's the smartest, most athletic of the bunch. He is in love with Emma, so he's like, this is dumb, but I love you so much that I'm just going to go with it, and we're gonna escape with everyone. We need to figure this out. And Ray is the smart but not athletic one. He is very much, once he comes into the fold, is very much like, no, we can't take everyone. We'll all die if we try and take all the kids. Some of these kids can barely run. So basically the premise for the first couple of episodes is we need to train these kids without tipping our hand to saying, hey, we don't want the kids to know that there are monsters out there. So they disguise it with games of tag / hide and seek. So they get all the kids out and they're teaching them like tactics of being good at tag and hide and seek at the same time. And it's a beautiful thing. It's just a lot of, as Scott put it, move and counter move. And so the mother ends up finding the bear in the place where it shouldn't be. So she knows, the bunny. So she knows that some of the kids, at least one kid, broke the rules and now knows that they're in a farm, basically, or that they're being killed as they leave. So she's trying to mitigate the situation as to not get in trouble with her superiors, while also basically keeping all the kids trapped and cornered and making sure they don't escape without letting them know that she knows that they're onto them, and the kids are trying not to let the mom know that they know what's going on, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, the climax of the story has to be essentially a great escape scenario. And the one modification I'd make for what Cookie said is that the three individuals, Norman and Ray, are both like intelligent, but you have Norman as the optimist and Ray as the like cynic. And then Emma is the most like kinesthetically intelligent. She's very, very fit, I guess. She's not dumb, but compared to the two geniuses, she's only like
she has to try
pseudo genius. Yeah, it's because she's too nice. She cares too much. But otherwise, yeah, it is. It's all building towards a great escape scenario, most likely for, I assume, the finale. And it's about halfway through what I imagine the episodes will be for the first season.
How far are you, Scott?
I'm completely caught up.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I have two questions. The first one is, has there been a character so far? And since we're in spoiler territory, I feel like this is safe to say, unless you don't want to answer it for Cookie's sake, if he hasn't gotten this far. Is there a character that understands what's happening and has taken the strategy of acting dumb as nails?
So,
episode 2 is when they find this out. The order in which kids are taken, you basically, these tests that they take, anyone over the age of 6, they get shipped out if they've got low scores. You have to get high scores in order to survive the longest. But as soon as you hit 12, your brain is developed
you're out
enough,
either way.
You're out.
Because they're eating the children's brains.
Second question, like, how gory is this show?
There's been one dead body and just a dream sequence of dead bodies, not a lot of blood, and it's quite literally it's not gory at all, actually.
Yeah, it's really mild. It's just children's corpses.
Yeah.
Just okay. I think I've talked about this
face.
before. I do have like a bad tick, or not tick. I do have a bad reaction to violence towards children. I think in any form of media, but like if it's there's no
violence being enacted to them as much as just like you can see their dead body.
Yeah, you see a child's corpse, and then there's a dream sequence where one of the characters is freaking out and all of her friends are dead beside her, or him. I forget which kid had the dream, but yeah, you just see a lot of children's corpses with flowers sticking out of their hearts.
Okay, I'll maybe have to approach this with caution.
When you see the first dead body, you'll know. It's a great show, and I am actively having to, like, since we had company over, I was like, Lizzie, no, we can't watch another episode. And then it was, okay, I've got to do this thing, so no, we can't watch another episode, because I was going to play D&D with Scott, so I was like, nope, can't watch any more episodes, because if we do, I'm going to be late for D&D, so stop.
What else have you guys been up to aside from the Promised Neverland?
I decided to bite the bullet and open up and repair my snowblower just in time for 6 to 7 inches of snow.
What was wrong with it that you were able to repair?
So after doing a little bit of digging, I thought that my shear pin broke. Basically, the motor still worked, but the thing that actually spins around to clear the snow wasn't actually connected anymore. So I assumed it was a shear pin issue, but to double check that, I actually had to take it apart, and it turns out it was just a belt slipped. So I put the belt back on, and it worked, and then it snowed a whole lot. And then I was like, well, this is convenient.
Yeah, you probably were elated to see the snow, or know that you had fixed it before then. We got like 8 inches or something this morning, it seems like, or overnight.
Yeah, it was awful, and I'm in the market for finding a new snowblower that's going to be better than the one that I have. Because I Googled my snowblower's brand, and like 17 articles of recalls came up, and I was like, oh, well,
oof,
that's convenient.
This snowblower contains asbestos. Buyer beware.
If you
Pretty much.
If you consume the snowblower in the state of California, it's known to cause cancer.
It's known to cause cancer.
What about you, Scott? Anything outside of video games?
Yeah, other materials that may cause cancer, at least in the state of California, I found out was one of my backpacking backpacks. Just to keep it on topic.
So you shouldn't eat it, right?
Or burn it? I don't know.
Or wear it. Skin cancer?
I think,
that's a real thing.
I think as long as you don't wear it, eat it, or burn it while you're in the state of California, you'll be fine.
I'm fine, yeah. If I have to be very careful on those borders, in like Oregon and Nevada, but as long as I play it safe and keep my GPS on me at all times, I should be able to stay alive. The reason I found that out is because I actually worked on like doing a deep clean in my apartment, and one of the things I did was take Sierra and I's 70-liter backpacking backpacks and mount them on the wall. They look nice. It makes us look like a more like active and fit couple, even though, I mean, the backpacks are just on the wall. They're not being used. It's also like 8 degrees outside or something. So, well, actually probably not today, but I imagine it's still very cold and not really backpacking weather just yet.
So was the reason that you started tidying up, was that because of Marie Kondo?
No, it wasn't. I already did the Scott Marie method, and I feel like that's worked fine. I'm not really going to go past that, but it was just a deep clean because we were having some company over. Since we were going to be entertaining, I wanted to like make our apartment look as spacious as possible, and that meant removing like half of the items that were not organized away properly.
I think you might have just found a life pro tip, whatever, either or, which is if you have something on the ground that is considered cluttered, as soon as you staple it, or well, I'm being crude, but as soon as you staple it to the walls, it's now artwork or like it's display.
Yeah, it's decorative and functional. And so I'm actually super happy about it. If there were more things I could mount to the walls, I would, but the
You can mount
apartment
your
that
base to
I'm
the
in.
wall.
Well, here's the thing. The apartment that I'm in won't let me like screw stuff into the wall necessarily. I can put in like small nails, and the stuff that I have hanging up the bags are those like command hooks or the command strips by 3M with like a heavy duty hook on it. But those still only go up to like 7 pounds or so. The
Hey,
base,
Scott?
Yeah.
If I've learned anything in my lucrative 3 to 5+ year DJ career,
Yeah.
you can zip tie anything to anything and it'll work.
Just zip
We
tie it to the
zip-tied.
wall.
We zip tied some very, very heavy monitors to just random things and made it look good.
It sounds horrifying.
It was,
Like-
but it wasn't my stuff, so I didn't care.
Okay.
Just zip tie everything to the walls. It's fine.
Where does the zip tie attach to the wall though?
Shh.
Yeah, so that's
Just-
the
just use
one
more
issue.
zip ties.
Yeah. That's the one issue
Ooh,
I'm worried about.
You can use the little wall, the hanging. Oh gosh, the hanging planters.
Yeah.
How you screw those things into the ceiling, and then you just zip tie it from both sides.
So the
using
whole
like a bunch of zip ties.
screwing things in is still the issue though. I don't want to screw things in.
You said to the walls, not the ceilings. Bam, loophole, found it.
Go into your
this guy's hired. Cookie's my new representative and lawyer. I'll have you come out here when I need to negotiate with my landlord on the like security deposit. I think we've
Perfect.
got a rock solid case. But yeah, besides tidying up and making my apartment look like gorgeous, it looks so good. I love a clean room, and I forget how much that means to me until I see it, and my eyes just like glaze over in delight. I've mostly just stuck to playing games, trying to stay warm. The usual for this time of year for me.
Well, let's talk about video games. But before we do that, we've got a couple emails to read off and a follow-up from last week. The first one is from quote-unquote Drake, which I realize doesn't have to be the pop star Drake.
But it could be.
It actually said from Drake, or Drake at the bottom, then what was it? P.S. Not actually Drake. So I don't know how to interpret this.
That's something Drake would say.
I mean, he
Yo,
does
I'm
play
trying to
Fortnite.
stay anonymous.
He does play
This
Fortnite.
wasn't-
So
Yeah.
no, and I've edited down both of these emails since they were a little longer before. Respawn is fully owned by EA. This is not a third-party developer working on a publisher or parent company's IP, like FromSoft, Souls, Capcom, with slashes separating those three. EA would have complete or has complete control over Respawn's projects and games should they so choose to flex it. The reason microtransactions might not be terrible at the moment is because EA is hyper aware they would be toasted if they were horrible at release. Like Battlefront, that's the one I'm thinking. Or Star Wars Battlefront, right? That was kind of a snafu
Battlefront
last
2.
year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Battlefront 2 was a big issue for them.
Thanks for the correction.
And the second one comes from a William. Hey, FRP, or specifically Neil. In episode 105, you mentioned another Eden with a lot of excitement, given that this is a release with core staffers from Chrono Trigger. In parentheses, there may or may not be a frog named Cyrus in the game. I can confirm that, by the way. That is true. In 106, you expressed frustration towards Respawn and EA releasing Apex Legends, a flavor of the month BR. So my question is, why the hate for EA if they did really force Respawn to make a BR, which is a pretty safe bet when you're not annoyed that the spiritual successor to Chrono Trigger ends up as a mobile game.
Yeah, Neil. Why is that?
What the fuck?
Why are you so anti-Apex Legends?
So
Yeah.
and I'll get to Apex Legends here in a bit too, because there have been some potential updates on that matter. But first and foremost, with Another Eden, I think part of it is it's first established. It's not a different genre in this case, which it sounds like you're alluding to. It's a different platform, and the game itself is trying to be as close to like a JRPG or traditional JRPG as possible in the meantime. But also, like, I'm not as like agitated by Another Eden's existence because Chrono Trigger has not had a sequel in like since Chrono Cross, which is what, probably 20. No, that's too much. 15 years now, 1999-ish, maybe closer to 20. Whenever Chrono Cross came out.
Yeah, if it's 1999 era, that is 20 years out from now.
Oh my God, that's depressing. I didn't even, 1999, November 18th, 1999 was Chrono Cross's release. So at this point in time, I don't think we would ever have gotten a new Chrono game like Chrono Break, which was licensed and copyrighted multiple times and expired multiple times. So I'm just happy to get anything. But as I was led to believe or believed due to certain news releases last week, I thought that we had basically confirmed that Titanfall 3 was not in development because they were working on Apex Legends, which is like a direct cause and effect. So if Titanfall 3 was really dead because of Apex Legends, like my aggression, I think that's what stemmed from my like disdain for that business choice. And also just that like my aversion to like people jumping on the bandwagon for different genres or specific genres like MOBAs, BR, Battle Royales, is mainly because a lot of the times when companies do that, or MMOs for that matter too, by the way, they do it too late. And as a result, they do it when the core games have already been established. Like that happened with MOBAs. So after Dota 2 and League of Legends basically established like the two stable MOBAs on the market.
Heroes of the Storm tried to get in.
Well, and they're like the most successful out of all of them. Like, has it been shut down? I think it's still active.
It's still active. Last news thing I heard a few weeks ago was like they're pretty much pulling back on a lot of things, and then Activision Blizzard is now doing the whole layoffs.
I did hear about that, and one of the biggest proponents, or one of the biggest the department that got hit the hardest from what I read was the esports division, which happens to be Overwatch and Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah.
Not saying they're developers. The articles I read were that the developer portions of Activision and Blizzard were not affected at all. So we're talking marketing, advertising, esports. Those proponents of the company got hit. So, I mean, that's a good thing, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. Not good for those people, but at least good that the development teams are left unaffected. Means that they at least have done relatively well on those fronts. But Dawn Gate was actually one that came to mind. And who published Dawn Gate? Oh, that's right. Electronic Arts.
What's Dawn Gate?
That was another MOBA attempt. And I don't even think the game got officially released. It was in an open beta form or early access or whatever for a couple months, and then bam, Dawn Gate dead, and well, closed down by EA. MMOs, basically everything after World of Warcraft, was dead until Final Fantasy XI and a few other stragglers, and then Final Fantasy XIV obviously has been very stable too. But like for the most part, when people just jump on the bandwagon and make games with that same formula or attempt to, the results are often not very good. But thanks for the emails. We like absolutely appreciate getting those, and in times like this, it helps us like better explain our stances on things too. I would have loved if Another Eden was a actual like console release as opposed to a mobile game. I just am like taking what I can at this point.
And since we're thanking our listeners, we now have finally enough reviews on Apple Podcasts to start reading off names. So far, there's just me with the test review. But
that's the
I
only
will
one
say,
that you can see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All the other ones are just 5-star reviews. So we are 5 for 5.
It's 5 for 5 out of 5, I guess.
Yeah. So
Nice.
I guess keep the reviews coming and we'll start giving shout outs and not running contests because we ain't got that kind of money.
Not
Or
yet.
those kind of sponsors.
If you drive to Omaha, Nebraska, you too can share a glass of whiskey with Cookie.
Quite literally. Yeah, we got extra space. Shit.
Now that the topic has been opened, what have you guys been playing for video games?
I found out that I am not a skilled tactician.
Oh, somebody's been playing Wargroove.
Hags, yeah. And I'm not good. I'm not good at all. Like, I thought I was an okay tactician since I've been playing a lot of Divinity Original Sin 2. But turns out that having the help of friends while playing a tactical game is very helpful because then you've got 3 minds working against the AI instead of just me working against the AI. And I am now finally... I decided to do a side mission with the puppy, and the puppy got decimated very badly. And yeah, I'm not a skilled tactician. It's a pretty game, but I'm not a skilled tactician.
You can't teleport your enemies into lava pits in this one.
You cannot teleport your enemies into lava pits in this one.
Not yet, at least. I can think of one way in which it may be possible, but there's no lava tiles yet.
Damn. But yeah, no,
I would say the caveat
Wargroove.
for this game is that there are some levels that are really, really hard. I've progressed forward in it to like the 5th act at least, and I can say that there's been only one level where I've actually had to change the like damage that my units take or the like groove, the Wargroove charge meter percentage build, because I just could not get past it. I could not figure out or find a way to solve this problem. But otherwise, you may just be bumping into a couple missions that are tricky for you. It also has a bit of a learning curve, but I've noticed that there are some maps that I just stomp on the first time I do them, and they're very easy. And there are other maps, not necessarily in any order, that I get through by the skin of my teeth, employing all sorts of different strategies. So I wouldn't lose hope just yet, Cookie.
Oh, no, I've lost all hope, but I do want to dig into its deep map creator / campaign creator.
Holy shit, yeah. I did not
fun.
know that there was a campaign creator, Neil, but I don't know how far you've gotten into it, Cookie. I only know rudimentary. You can pick from several overworld maps and then create an entire campaign. So a collection of ordered maps and objectives to complete with a massive amount of customization. And then when you launch the solo play screen, you can actually play your own campaigns next to the original Wargroove campaign.
And it's really great that, at least I haven't looked too much into it, but I hear that you can even do cutscenes in your campaign, which is awesome.
Yeah, I've
so
seen
you can
some
make
options
a
for
full-fledged
that.
game. You can just make a full-fledged game.
It's
Wargroove too hard? It's okay. I'm going to make my own version of Wargroove, and it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be super easy.
Yeah, welcome to Groove War, where it's more about the groove and less about the war. Yeah, seriously, it's really cool. It's like buying Fire Emblem and getting like RPG Maker 4 as just part of the package, just stapled right on. And all the online content I've been looking at so far it's varied because it's still a brand new online community, but there are some people making some really cool and really interesting maps and scenarios. I haven't looked at any campaigns yet, but I'm interested in maybe picking up some other person's campaign that they build and post online.
Do the campaigns allow for story and narrative?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a full-on just RPG Maker, like Scott said. Scott, we do have to
try
and play together.
I've downloaded a couple maps. I've got a hockey game actually right after we record, but we could play later this evening even.
Possibly, we'll see. I know my wife and brother both said, "Oh yeah, we're totally down for playing Divinity: Original Sin." What the fuck, Cookie? Why are you podcasting still?
Yeah. Well, I'm throwing down the gauntlet. Everybody's heard it on the podcast now. I challenge Cookie to a duel of the tactical minds. We will see which one of us emerges victorious.
Sweet. It's going to be you. But besides that, I've also been playing a new battle royale, Tetris 99. I have not gotten any top 5s. The best I've gotten is top 16. I will say Tetris 99 is a weird and fun take on Tetris, I guess, because it's no longer, because I think at most I've ever seen is like Tetris where it's you and 3 other people basically duking it out, but how like your trash that you get to dump on other people works is kind of randomized. Yeah, that it's just you and 99 other people, and you can like see behind your board, because Tetris only needs the rectangle grid. You can see to the left of your board and to the right of your board all the other games that are being played, and you're actually seeing them in real time as they're getting out and losing. And it's not nearly as exciting as like a first person shooter battle royale, but it's still a nice little change of pace for a battle royale game. I have given up on Y2K.
What turned you off so fast on it?
It's so hipster it hurts.
So it's cringy? Is that it?
For lack of better words, maybe. But I just know I'm not going to play it. There are things that pique my interest a lot more when I'm just on the go. So Wargroove is piquing my interest more, but usually it's Smash that's keeping me away from wanting to play Y2K. I also have found out that I'm never going to beat Let's Go Eevee, which I'm fine with because I beat Yellow, maybe. Who knows? I'll say I beat Yellow, and no one's going to fight me on that.
No one's going to be able to fact check that one.
Pretty much. Besides that, the only other game I've been playing really is fitness boxing.
VR?
Which is... No, fitness boxing on the Switch.
Ah, of course. I should have known.
So we've been... Lizzie's been yelling at me about losing weight for forever, and I was like, you know what? Well, fuck it. I got into DDR like a while ago. I don't have any VR anymore, so I can't like do my I wasn't playing Beat Saber. It was the Sound Shield one that let me break a sweat while doing all the crazy things. But yeah, fitness boxing. It's a workout and it's a lie. Because you definitely say, okay, I want to do a 30-minute workout. And they're like, cool, we've tailored this 30-minute workout for you. You've got 37 minutes remaining. And you're like, what the fuck? That is not what I asked for.
I want a 23-minute
3.5 minute
workout?
warm up and the 3.5 minute cool down, though.
Yep. And then all the other things. It's just like the 37-minute workout takes about 45 minutes to go through, because then they like do talking and stuff. There's only like 37 minutes of you actually being active, but this was also for a 30-minute workout. I don't care if you short shift me. I don't want to do extra. So I've changed it to a 25-minute workout, which is really a 32-minute workout. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
The one thing that bothers me about this prospect is that you have to hold the I about called them Wiimotes. You have to hold the Joy-Cons with your sweaty ass hands after working out or while working out.
Correct. Or you can actually set it to a kind of just like a video mode where you just follow along. So you don't have to hold your Wiimotes with your sweaty ass hands.
That's nice.
Or you
I'd
put the
prefer that.
Wiimotes in your wristband sweatbands, and that way you don't have to touch them, and you get mocap.
And then when you punch so hard, it flies out of
It
the wristband
jets outward,
into your
yeah.
expansive TV, or in Cookie's case, into his wall.
Yes,
Yeah.
into the wall, because fuck that shit. Or you can
put
buy
your wife in a coma and then you don't have to work out anymore.
Or you can buy the Nintendo boxing glove accessory, which I'm surprised they don't have one, actually. That'd be brilliant. Just like a little box. Just buy boxing gloves with like a little pocket sewn into the
Slip
to the
put
top of them.
Yeah.
Just like, wham. Just.
I'm pretty
But yeah,
sure it's
no.
illegal to put anything in your gloves, though. Those don't sound regulation.
Well, what about you, Scott? What have you been playing?
I've been playing more Wargroove, but we've already spoken about that a little bit. And I don't know if there's much else I have to add until Cookie and I start digging further, besides the fact that at my point, I've accessed a puzzle mode. It's actually really difficult. You're essentially given these pre-made arrangements where you have to like move a unit from one end of the map to the other in a single turn, or defeat an enemy in a single turn. And even the first puzzle is like a little tricky to figure out. You have to essentially use all of your knowledge of like the best positioning and unit efficiency, as well as like critical hit management, to take out the leader of like the opposing group. And in all of these puzzles, like as they get more complex, they start adding more potential paths. I don't know if they're necessarily viable or not, because I'm not very good at these puzzles yet. But they give you all of this like extra units and space to like make mistakes or have to work out the puzzle on, where the solution really doesn't actually need any sort of engagement with certain enemy types, or the objective may not be to defeat the commander anymore, but to try and defeat their home base in a single turn instead, because it's slightly more vulnerable to the positioning of your units. I like the mode a lot. It'd be super cool if more games had these puzzle levels. I used to really adore what they did for Dishonored's DLC, where there were puzzle levels where you had to like commit a certain amount of like assassinations within a 5-second period, or like rearrange rearrange items in a room in order to cause like a chain reaction of explosions or something, or work in a confined environment to stealthily like grab or subdue a target, or get a piece of treasure. Like, implementing puzzle modes is, I think, an often underlooked or underused strategy to like get more mileage out of a game. And I'll definitely be tackling more of these as I finish up Wargroove's like standard campaign and arcade modes. I feel like there's so much content here for the game. It's really exciting to find out that they have this much before I've even accessed the multiplayer functions.
I really hadn't thought about extra modes expanding upon the playability of the game, or like of game material. But actually, before I make the segue, are you good on Wargroove?
Oh, I actually have a segue if we're going to talk about extra material, extra content. And that is, very quickly, the inability of Team Cherry to make DLC effectively. It's very confusing for them, as they've said in interviews or like blog posts. But if you watch the Nintendo Direct, which I hope we dig into a little bit more in our conversation, they've released a 2-minute trailer for a DLC turned into a brand new spiritual successor game to the original Hollow Knight, Hollow Knight Silksong, where you play as the titular character. There's, I guess, I'm sorry, what?
Needle. That's her name.
It's Hornet, actually, but
damn it,
she uses a needle. The titular character's ally in Hollow Knight, Hornet, gets her own campaign that was originally devised by Team Cherry to be a DLC, and then they were just like, actually, we can make a game that is based off of what we were going to do for the DLC, but is an even bigger Hollow Knight experience for this like primary ally in the first game, and I'm super excited for that. I would look into the trailer. This is going to be, just looking at the trailer already, this is going to be just as good as Hollow Knight, if not better. If only because they did such an exceptional job with the first game that I can only see them like doing just as well with the greater variety of like weapons and enemies and new things to explore and put together in a sequel game for the Hollow Knight series.
In the spirit, much like the puzzle levels of Wargroove, Resident Evil 2 released some free DLC that had 3 different, or I guess they're calling them ghost survivors. I believe that means that they might not actually survive the canon events of Resident Evil 2, because the 3 scenarios have you playing as characters that I think die. Especially one of them you see dead, if I'm not mistaken.
The tofu one?
Well, no, not the tofu character. This is 3 additional characters that you actually meet or see in some form while you're playing the game's campaign, depending on who you play. The one I had was playing was this girl who is, I can't remember her name, but she's the mayor's daughter. And she is the quote-unquote, you know what, just in case people want to still play Resident Evil that don't have exposure to it or anything like that, I won't say who she is. But you play as this woman that is like not as, we'll say, well equipped as Claire or Leon. Jeez.
Sorry.
No, but just from the nature of the fact that like you start off with only the SLS-60, a handful of bullets, and some of the powered rounds. And then the game plays much more differently. Like where Resident Evil 7 is about learning the rooms, the layout, and devising paths to get through the game. This is more like you go into each area with a limited amount of supplies, and you can access these capsule toy machines to choose from. You choose one item from 3. Then you have to get through these enemies and potentially also down an enemy that has a backpack that contains a key to the next area. So it's way more video gamey than like Resident Evil 2's core campaign is. Much like how the hunk and tofu modes are slightly more gamey, this is even a step further than that, and that you basically have a variety of different strategies you can take going through each area, because the items that you get from these toy capsule machines, again, let you choose one from one out of the 3 given, are very different. Like you could select more SLS-60 or SLS, whatever the number is, powered ammo.
It's 60.
You could take a grenade or a flashbang, or there could be like flamethrower fuel. So it's like 3 radically different approaches to the next room, and there probably is a right answer, but most of the core gameplay of it is you going through each room, dying at some point because you didn't manage your resources, reloading, or rather restarting over, and then trying out different strategies. It's actually pretty fun. It's definitely not the same sort of like terror element that you'd have from the campaign, but this is, assuming you've already beaten the game and have already started to maximize your routes. So I guess make your routes more efficient. It's like approachable as the game becomes less fear prone and more game prone, if that makes sense. I also finished 428 Shibuya Scramble, and that's actually the full name of it. I think the last few times I've just been calling it 428 Shibuya. I've learned a couple things about this game in the process too, like apparently this is a Wii port, but it was never released in America. So this game is like 10 years old, which starts to make more sense because a lot of the characters in the game would have flip phones. And part of me is like, why are they using flip phones for like props in this game when, it's because 10 years ago in Japan, they weren't using smartphones. Makes sense now. Or however many years it'd be for the Wii. The game, I just want to say if anyone out there is looking for kind of like a fun, nonsensical, but somewhat serious at times visual novel, just something lighthearted to play, I definitely recommend it. There's a lot of kooky, weird, crazy stuff that goes on in it. And the game also likes to have fun at its own expense at times too. Having a bunch of bad, quote unquote, bad endings that occur that would not make sense within the canon of the true ending. Like, let's say the canon of the true ending, a character gets infected with a virus, so they're going to die if that's not taken care of within the next 10 hours or so. One of the endings has that same character decide to give up whatever is happening in the plot to become a competitive eater, and then it details how that character's like even though they were not able to find out their memories, they've decided to, push their competitive eating life like further into the forefront, and their true goal is to become the greatest competitive eater ever. Lots of fun. And I also learned too that apparently this game in some way or form either spawns or they made the game knowing that they were going to tie in a different game called Kanan, which I'm not certain quite yet, but Kanan seems, which is Canaan, which that shares the same spelling of a board game that is escaping my head now too.
No, you're thinking Settlers of Catan.
Oh, Catan. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But Kanan is definitely an anime.
And if it's the anime I think it is, then it could very well be... Yes, this is... All right. No, yeah, so it's an anime and a video game. I'm assuming the anime came first. But so 428 Shibuya Scramble actually came to be... I'm actually just going to read the Wikipedia here for a second. Kanan is a 13-episode anime television series conceptualized by Type Moon co-founders Konoko Nasu and Takashi Takeuchi based on the scenario that they created for the Wii visual novel 428 Shibuya Scramble, which is noted for being one of the few games to have been awarded a perfect score by games publication Famitsu. I didn't realize 428 got a perfect score from Famitsu. I don't know if I would necessarily give it a perfect score, but I had a blast playing it.
What is Famitsu, and is it something that we should care?
It's a Japanese video game publication.
It's a big one.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest Japanese one. And getting perfect scores is not easy, but at the same time, I have a feeling... I don't know if this is like an inside joke or a community joke or something, but like I have
it's
a feeling
like how The
people
Room can score a 5 out of 5 on a movie review, right?
Well, no, I mean like what they do is I think they score it out of 40, if I'm not mistaken. But there's
yes,
I more than once have heard that like getting a perfect score from Famitsu could very well be something you pay for. Again,
okay.
I'm not saying that's the case. It's just I have definitely heard stuff like that before.
You heard it here first, guys. You can bribe Famitsu to get perfect scores.
Hey, man, they've had from the 24 games awarded perfect scores as of 2017, 3 of them were for Nintendo DS, 5 were for the Wii. The PlayStation 3 also had 5 games.
I mean,
and Xbox 360 has 4.
That doesn't necessarily indicate that they're getting paid off. I think that could more likely indicate a bias towards Japanese developers as a Japanese publication magazine. I mean, we have that same bias here in America as well. Not me personally. I tend to probably be more biased towards Japanese games, but a lot of awards publications or publications that have awards in America, I think, tend to be a little more focused on Western, be it European or American, North American, South American, America's development projects.
I'll give any game a perfect score if they pay me.
Yeah. Not saying I would. No. Anywho,
I will.
Kanan, it's very wild because once you unlock or once you beat Shibuya 428 or 428 Shibuya Scramble, at least I guess this is the true ending that we happened to get on our first try. It then unlocks a long-winded portion of the Kanan visual novel, as I would expect it to be. But it's very weird because the game takes a very different approach in like themes and presentation.
Are there any biblical themes by chance? I just happened to look up Canaan because it sounded familiar, and it's also like referenced several times in the Bible as a region as well as a character.
It's hard to know from what we played of the like bonus chapter or preview for Canaan, whatever you want to call it. But the biggest allusions to religion were in that the instructor character for Canaan's like apparently this young assassin slash they had a name for it, but basically like a covert agent. Her instructor used to be a soldier as part of the Palestinian Liberation Front, or front, something like that. PLF or PLO. I don't remember what the O would stand for. And he talked it's not really talked about through dialogue, but rather the narrative talks about how he had once been like a soldier driven by belief and idealism, but like he quickly, or not quickly, but over time became more a soldier based on the act of being a soldier and realizing that his existence in the grand scheme of things was that of being a cog in the war machine. Like it kind of went like Metal Gear Solid in a very light dose. Whereas 428 Shibuya Scramble is way more lighthearted, weird hijinks and fun that gets really convoluted, but in a good way towards the end of the game. Like there's a bunch of plot twists and a bunch of, you could call them Deus Ex Machina moments that all are actually set up and built through the beginning of the game. Like straight down to this one very simple thing where a character is tasked with the job to tell a group of people that their dry ice machine is broken. And because he forgets to tell that their dry ice machine is broken, that actually ends up saving the day at the very end of the game. Which, yes, it is bizarre and weird. But that was Shibuya. That was 428 Shibuya. Fun game. I'd recommend it if you like visual novels. But aside from that, it's probably a pretty hard genre for people to get into here in the West. And since we brought it up before, let's talk about the Nintendo Direct. We've already talked about the new installment in Hollow Knight, the Hollow Knight, now we can say franchise. And we've also talked about Tetris 99, the battle royale that we never knew we wanted, but sure as hell looks pretty fun. I'll have to try that too at some point.
And speaking of looking pretty, we can sidle into the other remake that I'm looking forward to.
Link's Awakening?
Link's Awakening.
Way to take his thunder.
No,
hey, man,
that's totally fine.
I'm happy that we're on like the same page there. I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. Hopefully he's talking about this. If he's not, he's a fucking fool.
The cute button eyes of this recreated Game Boy Link sprite is it's gonna be so pretty. It looks like what I would imagine some indie or like individual project that someone would do to try and port Link's Awakening into Unreal Engine 4. And it makes me very excited to know that instead of it just being like a 5-minute demo of something that someone worked really hard to create, it's going to be a full-fledged remaster of a game that I thought had some of the like most fun dungeons I played in my early Legend of Zelda career. And this is actually, I think, the first game in the Legend of Zelda series I ever played as a kid. So it has a special connection with like my nostalgia and excitement.
I think the most exciting thing about this remake is that you can potentially have more buttons to use in Link's Awakening. So I actually played this game for the first time and to completion as well, maybe like 2 years ago, so relatively recently. And I really liked the game, except for the fact that you fucking had 2 buttons to use.
Yeah, and you have to switch equipment all the fucking time.
And the sword is one of those 2 buttons.
Yeah, so sword and shield means you can use no other items, and therefore, I found when I played that game back in the old Game Boy Color days, I always had the sword and another item in the B slot, and I don't think I ever used the shield.
See, me right now, I'm just thinking to myself, I don't remember ever putting the shield on a button.
Yeah, so you probably never used the shield either. I think there are times that it can be used, but not much.
I thought the shield was just automatically out. And just in front of him.
Nope. It is actually a shield button in this game. In a game that came out around the same time, A Link to the Past, the shield was automatically active on Link.
Okay,
but
that's
for
the Link.
Link's
That's the
Awakening,
Link I played.
you could activate the shield and actually had uses to like push enemies down halls instead of attacking them and avoid like contacting enemies that were spiky, for instance. But that's about it. And you had to actively hold the button to do anything with it. So after a while, I realized it was worthless, and I just always put the feather on instead, because you can kite people with the feather instead of blocking them with the shield.
That's right. The feather made you go faster, right?
The feather made you jump in the air. You did a flip with the feather.
Oh, okay.
And that's how you could hop over single holes. And then if you were really good, you'd hop over holes onto the like small pixel edge and then work against the like magnetic attraction of the center of the hole. And you could like skirt the side of areas you weren't supposed to be in if you used the feather just right. You could totally kind of cheat some certain areas doing that.
So
I don't think they're bringing that back in.
Probably not. How do you feel about the inclusion of Mario enemies?
Oh, they've always had them.
Okay, so there's always been Goombas and Chain Chomps in this game?
Yeah.
That's not a chain chomp. That's Bow Wow, and it's a dog as far as anyone on the island is concerned. And since this is, not to spoil much about Link's Awakening, but hey, it's in the title there, this is essentially a adventure inside Link's head as he's like rousing himself out of a coma or whatever after being shipwrecked at sea. And so it doesn't have to make any sense. And in Link's brain, dreaming about other Nintendo IP characters, I think is totally fine. This is the first, this is the first game, I think, to have any sort of crossover of other Nintendo characters in the Legend of Zelda universe. And there are Goombas and Piranha Plants and Bow Wow, the dog, not a chain chomp, looks just like a chain chomp. And it had some really like weird sections that they really never carried forward, like these 2D screens where it would be a 2D vertical side scroller where you'd go down a well or like enter into a lower floor of a dungeon and then climb back up, but you'd scroll side to side and use the feather to like platform across, which is I think one of the other big functions for it.
It could be because those parts were not good. They were fine. They weren't so bad that they made me want to stop playing, but it was just like the worst feeling Mario ever.
Well, I don't see how it was a bad Mario, seeing as you could slash Goombas with a sword, which I think makes Mario a lot easier, in my opinion.
There is that, but it's just like the game wasn't built with the engine, if you want to call it that, for a game that old. Wasn't built with the idea of side-scrolling in mind, so I feel like it didn't play the way it was supposed to, or like would ideally play, if that makes sense. Like it played worse than Zelda 2.
It's because I think it's tight. Like that vertical screen that you could see on the Game Boy Color was not very much, so something would be on you in like half a second after it cleared the screen and got drawn. Yeah. And I mean, these are the days before VSync, guys, so it got a little choppy at times. But I'm excited for it. It had some really awesome dungeons. I remember exploring the island to be just a real blast. There was a prince and his frogs that I'm looking forward to seeing again. Overall, it should be very fun. I'm excited to pick it up. But I think as far as other classic games being... Well, this isn't a classic game necessarily, but Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, Neil, I feel like you're probably very excited about this, being a big fan of the Symphony of the Night Castlevania game and Bloodstained Ritual of the Moon. Is that right?
Ritual of the Night. Oh, you mean Curse of the Moon. Sorry. The
Curse of the Moon, yeah.
I have some trepidations about this game purely from the fact that we know that Mighty Number 9 kind of failed miserably, and the same, at least a lot of the same people are working on one to the other. I think maybe so like everything they showed is relatively, we'll say, normal, or like already known. Like it was all a known quantity so far. But the one thing that did surprise me, and maybe this would be known by people that back the game and were getting updates or keeping up with blog posts or whatnot, was that there's like customizations of the main character that I did not expect and kind of feels out of place. And that you can go in and customize like the character's appearance, their hair, and I'm assuming other aspects of it too. I don't necessarily know if that's really needed in the game, but I mean, it's not like it's taken away from any other aspect of the game as far as I can tell. It's a game, and it's coming out in 2019, supposedly. We'll see about that.
Yeah.
I was curious what you guys thought about Mario Maker 2, or excuse me, Super Mario Maker 2.
As a person who did not get a chance to play Super Mario Maker 1, or just Super Mario Maker, this looks nice. Yeah. This looks cool.
Yeah, I'm interested because I didn't have the hardware to play Super Mario Maker when it came out. Otherwise, I probably would have picked it up just to play some more side-scrolling Mario.
It was Giant Bomb's Game of the Year in 2016.
I believe it. It's
15?
It looks like such a neat idea, and so I'm looking forward to maybe trying this one out. But because it's, I don't know, because it's a game in which I either have to be creative or willing to expose myself to the creativity or sadism of others, depending on what maps you pick, it'll be one that I'll kind of keep my eye on, but maybe won't pick up until there's a deal or I just find myself awash with some extra cash to invest.
That one. I will say I'm excited for Hellblade.
Oh yeah,
Senua's Sacrifice.
Sierra's wanted to play that.
I too have wanted to play that, but have not pulled the trigger on getting that. And now that I can buy it on the Switch, I definitely think I will just go ahead and buy it on the PlayStation 3 because it's probably cheaper. But I'm pretty sure you want to talk about your exciting game of Romance of the Three Kingdoms, right?
You're alluding to Fire Emblem Three Houses, I take it?
Yes.
You mean Fire Emblem Snape Simulator?
Yeah, that took me by surprise. Again, maybe I assume everything shown at a Nintendo Direct is in some way accessible elsewhere beforehand, with the exception of specific announcements. I was assuming Fire Emblem Three Houses would have been more of like a here's the protagonist who has an equal opportunity to go down each of these three paths, kind of like Fates and Birthright and whatever the heck. I did not expect it to be a teacher choosing between Gryffindor, Slytherin, or Hufflepuff.
You mean Ravenclaw, Gryffindor, and Hufflepuff? I mean, I'm just going by colors, but
you don't think? Yeah, I mean, I don't. I would imagine that one of the three houses is supposed to be seen as the more evil one, so that'd be Slytherin.
Yeah. Okay.
Neither of these houses seem very evil based on the description of them. They just seem to be different areas.
Or maybe they're all evil.
Yep. Everything was fine until the Fire Kingdom attacked.
I mean, I would imagine they must be a little evil since they snuffed out whatever the fourth house was and divvied up the land appropriately.
Poor Hufflepuff.
Yeah. It's weird that, Fire Emblem has been engaging further and further upon this. Create your own player avatar and choose your own path in this game of war and strategy and friendship and face petting. So, they're sticking to the precedent that they've set at this point, where they're trying to make a more unique individual experience for their players. I'm interested to see how that works out for them, because what I always liked about Fire Emblem was their stories, and it's harder and harder to write a story when you have multiple paths and you have to justify or validate the one that the player is choosing in their particular experience, as opposed to having maybe in the Sacred Stones approach, like one or two perspectives on essentially the same story that's been written, and ultimately like not having to write a new conclusion on however those perspectives, or due to the perspectives merging at the end, like being able to beat the same bad guy no matter which you choose for your route to get there, and being a part of the same team of good guys no matter which route you choose, versus depending on how you choose in this game, it could be that the other two rival nations become your enemies as opposed to allies, like the Conquest Birthright games and their third option. I just feel like they're juggling justifying multiple sides of each conflict, which is, I guess, commendable in the sense that every conflict normally does have two sides, and it demonstrates kind of the humanity of each. But playing as a character on one of the three sides is just going to be, I don't know how they're going to balance that necessarily with providing like a really good story or personal experience for each player.
I don't even know if it's necessarily the challenge of making all sides seem realistic and justified in their own actions. I
guess maybe I should rephrase that. I feel like they spread themselves too thin when they approach things like this.
And there's also the element that like, I'm going to reference Suikoden 2, which is a game I've been streaming weekends at 8 a.m. Central, 2 p.m. UTC.
Good plug.
Because Suikoden 2 is a really well-written game in regards to the conflict. There are two nations at war, and you also play like a silent, quote-unquote, personality-less protagonist. Although in this case, you choose one side, like that is the side that the protagonist always joins. And so it gives the writers of the game a means or method to create some plot device that allows them to justify why the player and the character that they're using or represents the player has to stick to that one side. And in Fire Emblem, like especially Birthright and Conquest, it felt weird because that protagonist that you played that had a little more personality, but that actually works in their detriment, in my opinion, gets these two options or choices to choose from, but like as a result, the justifications for one over the other don't necessarily feel stronger. Like you pick one side and you have the reasons why you should pick that side in that playthrough, but they get nullified as soon as you play the other side. So it's like it kind of lessens the impact and rationale as to why you would play either side, which I think in some contexts is what helped sell their third chapter or path DLC, which was, I'm assuming, like the canon true path.
Right, where you reconcile between both sides.
Where you pick the best waifus from each side and put them together.
Create a grand waifu army to rival any nation.
And more face petting, better face petting, the best face petting. So yeah, like I think we have a justified reason to have some trepidation over this, because not only do you have the three routes to choose straight from the get-go, assumedly, if they're not gating something off on release, but you also are given this position, and again, this is just us like reflecting off of the very little knowledge or data we've been given from that preview, but you're a freaking teacher. So you go through an introductory chapter and then you become an instructor at like this officer/military university, in which case like you would imagine a teacher is supposed to be like impartial to who their students are, accept everyone, but no, you choose one house and they're represented
Doesn't
by
it also
nations.
seem like it's going to be very inappropriate to forge level relationships in this game?
I mean, you might be a young teacher, in which it's perfectly fine, as long as they wait to
Not
tell you.
according to Scott.
As long as
Not according to Scott.
I'm gonna build an old fucking man.
but you can't unless that old man somehow. Oh wait, no, you mean for your protagonist. I thought you meant like you're going to recruit an old man, and I'm like, but you can't. They're students. They're all going to be questionable ages. You're going to have to deal with that moral dilemma playing this game.
The character creator may not let me add wrinkles to my face, but I definitely know it can give me white hair and like squinting eyes, and so I can look like the like quintessential cartoon old man who's so old that his eyelids have literally just drooped shut and all of his hair has just frosted white.
But the animators are so bad that they don't know how to put any other details on.
Yeah, they just forgot like the liver spots and the wrinkly skin. I've actually just kept up my facial regimen, but unfortunately it hasn't saved my hair or my eyesight. I don't know. I'm still interested. It hasn't dissuaded me from buying it. And I'm excited to become the sponsor of the Golden Deer group.
Is that the oligarchy?
Yeah, that's the oligarchy. Oligarchy. Yeah, I guess that's the best word for it. A bunch of noble houses that rule a land in a pseudo-democratic fashion versus a kingdom and an empire.
I like how there's a lot of reoccurring themes and like nation types in the Fire Emblem games, because this one in particular reminds me of the three nations from three-ish nation-ish things from Fire Emblem 4. But
I don't remember that one as well. Oh, okay.
Is what it was called. It was for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, they always do seem to have like a big, almost like sprawling ancient empire, a pseudo like I want to say China, not as in it's always culturally Chinese or depicted that way, but like a very big old empire that has a bunch of land and like very like set cultural traditions, practices, and like bureaucratic systems. And then there's like a kingdom that normally belongs to your protagonist that gets usurped by some more chaotic nation that is another kingdom or a corrupt like collection of nations. Fire Emblem does the statecraft pretty well. That's one thing that I've enjoyed about it a lot.
Were there any other games that you guys were excited about in Nintendo Direct, or should I say not excited about, but have things to say about?
Did I dream that they announced Mortal Kombat 11 for Switch? I did not dream it. They are having Mortal Kombat 11 on the Switch, so that's exciting for me. That just means I am going to buy this game, and I now know what I'm buying it on the Switch.
Can't wait for that Ronda Rousey mocap, huh?
Eggs, yeah.
I mean, like, there are a bunch of games that I'm excited to play. Box Boy and Box Girl, Yoshi's Crafted World, but the only thing that popped out at me regarding like new things or other announcements, and small shout out to Deltarune being announced for Switch. I mean, purely because it said additional chapters, which are currently in development, quote unquote. That all just was a reminder that hey, there's always that thing that who knows when it will come out, and who knows if he's added more people to his staff, but one day.
Here's the real question. If it comes out at a late enough period in time, is the Switch going to be obsolete by that point?
God, so that's kind of what came to mind too. You would think that is not going to be the case, right?
But I would think that.
Yeah. I'm choosing to be optimistic on this one. One title that jumped out that like surprised me was Platinum Games Astral Chain, which I told my girlfriend that it was basically twin blue-haired police officers anime fighting. I don't know how else to put it. It kind of reminded me of God Eater, or by connection, I guess you could say, Code Vein, but
Yeah.
interesting, very interesting.
How do they fight them?
With batons and also what's the thing called in JoJo that you summon?
Stands.
Yeah, also stands that are
Oh.
connected to their grimoire. I don't know. It looks weird. Looks interesting.
It looks anime.
Yeah.
I guess they're not
It
blue
looks
haired.
very anime.
Or maybe they are blue haired. I have
They
no
look blue-haired to me.
Only when they've got their stands out do their
Oh.
hair does their hair become blue.
So it's combining elements of JoJo, Dragon Ball Z, or Dragon Ball Super, whatever. Pat Labor. I don't know if you guys are old enough to know that anime.
No, I was thinking it's more of a JoJo mixed with Psycho-Pass.
You should watch Pat Labor. I don't know. I actually don't know if it's a good show anymore. Like if it's aged well, but Pat Labor. Yeah, Astral Chain. Nintendo doing the smart thing, which is giving money to Platinum Games to make a video game. Who would have thunk it? They did it once
Yeah.
before, or well, multiple times before. And I think more importantly, giving them money to make a game that is not licensed material like Korra or Transformers or
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But
Yeah.
I'm stoked for that. Looks cool.
I mean, it's got Nier and Bayonetta folks on it, so it could be very good. At least as a fighter. I mean,
It's Platinum Games. They're all good fighters.
it's always going to be a good fighter with Platinum. Yeah.
It's so stylish. So any other things from the Nintendo Direct that drew your interest?
Nope, we got one more way of playing Final Fantasy VII, and that happened.
Ooh,
And that
Final
furthers my
Fantasy
belief that
9.
Final Fantasy VIII is like just dead to Square. Either they lost
is.
they lost a bunch of assets or something. I don't know why they don't ever re-release it.
They just really didn't like that one. They were like, not our best work, and so they just locked it away.
It was actually kind of funny as they were like, you can play Final Fantasy VII. I was like, I'd be more excited about Final Fantasy IX. And then they were like, you can play Final Fantasy IX. And I was like, am I a god? You know what? My brother would be super excited about Final Fantasy VIII. They're like, fuck that game. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry.
Fuck that game. Fuck that guy.
and they actually said too that so 7's coming out soon. 9 was immediately out, like as of the Nintendo Switch.
day.
Yeah. Once that conference was over, you could get it right away.
But
$20.
before you go and buy it, just a quick heads up that this is actually the same version as the PC and mobile ports for Final Fantasy IX, so it's going to have the same bugs and issues. I'm not certain if it's a good port or not, but I just wanted to throw that disclaimer out.
Sweet. I'm not buying it anyway.
Yeah.
'Cause
9
as much
is
as I
like-
love 9.
Yeah, 9's awesome. I totally want to I love streaming because it's like the perfect excuse to play games that I should otherwise not ever play. Again, I guess you could say it. No, I mean that's maybe a little harsh, but it's like I have very little justification to go through the Suikoden series again. But people keep coming to watch
But
it.
you have just enough with streaming. Like, it validates your choices that you would otherwise be nervous about.
People keep coming to watch it, and like I've got the same regulars coming to watch these streams, and which I'm very grateful for. It's like even more enjoyable playing these games, having other people reflect upon them as well. So it's like maybe I should play Final Fantasy IX at some point, and I'll probably stream it. It'll be a shit show because I don't remember anything about this game. In fact, I don't think I finished it, which makes me feel terrible.
That's
now.
actually the best kind of game to revisit.
Mm-hmm.
I just rather
So
do
all
it.
the games I can revisit.
Do it on stream, and then someone will tell you what you're doing wrong and help you do it right.
Maybe I should play Hollow Knight on stream.
Oof, I would not play Dark Souls or any games of those nature on stream for that exact same reason. I'd be torn apart. I always do like, I don't know what you'd call them. They're not quality builds, although I was using that term before, but the builds that let you use any weapon. So like by the end game, you're fucking...
Yeah, that's a quality build. A quality build is when you're like strength and dex, I'm going to keep them about even and just like be able to use any weapon.
Yeah, I want to use everything, but as a result, like you haven't min-maxed at all, and your character's pretty garbage when you PvP.
Here, I will give you like 2 minutes of the worst best character I've ever built in Dark Souls 3, which was a quality build with a massive amount of constitution, stamina, whatever it takes that you can wear heavier and heavier armor or increase your equipment load, and you're harder to stagger. Like your poise is also better. Whatever that was, the only things I put my my points into were dex, strength, and then endurance and that constitution or wow, I really wish I remember what the exact stat was, but into your equipment load stat. And I was able to build a black iron armor character that used the claws, dual wielded the claws, and then used the katana, and I can't remember what one of the katanas, and then I can't remember what the last item was. But essentially, the way that you can win PvP is having such a deep weapon pool and equip load that you can use every type of weapon effectively. And so you can just pull out a weapon that counters the other fighters. So with the claws, for instance, I would just repeatedly I'd let someone get in close when I had a weapon that wasn't the claws, and then I'd switch to them, immediately dual wield, and then just use my massive endurance bar to just whittle them down right in front of me, because I would just like shrug the first initial hit that they try and land on me. Or I could pull out a shield to parry like out of nowhere. So you just keep people on their toes and they don't know how to adapt to a combat style because you can change it every time. Yeah, it works. It's not, your damage output isn't amazing. You're not going to kill anybody in 1 or 2 hits, but if you're good at the actual mechanics of fighting, it's really unfortunate for people who are a one-trick pony on their build, because you just move to a different approach. Like you just find the best rock, paper, scissors matchup.
It's too bad we're never going to get that dedicated server for Dark Souls.
Yeah, that's okay.
Or Bloodborne, rather. So I think that does it for this episode of Fancy Ramen. If you have comments, questions, or corrections, you can write into podcast@fancyramen.com.
Feel free to leave reviews and likes on Apple Podcasts. That's a great way for us to grow our audience. Currently, we're sitting for 5 out of 5 with 5-star reviews. Let's just keep that gravy train rolling. You know, I'll take a 1-star review too. Why not? Fuck it. But leave your name, leave a comment. We'll definitely read the comment. Shit.
Yeah, and don't forget to tell a friend that 5 out of 5 is pretty good. 6 out of 6 is even better. 7 out of 7, amazing. And if they give us a 1-star review, I will personally find them and change their mind with heartfelt debate.
What?
Wasn't sure where I was going there. I think I saved it at the end.
I think my algebra teacher wants to talk to you about something, Scott.
Okay.
So this is episode 107 of Fancy Ramen, entitled
Debate Me, bro.
Zip Tie Everything, or War and Face Petting.
I'm Cookie.
And I'm Scott.
I'm Neil. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.